This is the Melbourne Regional Championships. It's got a $71,000 prize pool. Yet, despite being one of the best players in the country, this time I simply do not care about the money.
Well, yeah, when I saw the deck I had to play against round 1, I didn't even bother showing up.
No, I have one single goal.
This man straight up manipulated the meta.
I am going to completely ruin this tournament.
I kept trying my best, but they had a 100-0 matchup. It's like I didn't even get to play the tournament.
Why would I do this though? Have I lost my mind? What could I possibly have to gain? Well, I just thought it'd be funny, but it ended up going so much further. My plan was to recruit as many people as I could, get them all to play an absolute meme deck, and deliberately destroy the Melbourne Regionals meta. So obviously, the first logical step is somehow convincing a ton of strangers to try out the PokemonTCG, and then agree to dedicate 10 hours of their weekend to playing with cards in the world's least ergonomic chairs. Luckily, I have access to the most advanced brainwashing technology currently available. Cigarettes for the eyes, vertical dopamine, I'm talking short form content. And these reels did way better than I expected. Thousands of people sent me messages that they were interested, from curious collectors to veterans of other card games. See, I was primarily targeting those who have never played the PokemonTCG before.
270 my ass? What in the Oh, I see.
Since this is way easier than convincing experienced players to throw away their favorite deck and run a complete meme instead. Well, unless it's one of the most accomplished players of all time, but we'll come back to that later. Plus, getting a bunch of fresh faces involved helps to grow the overall Pokemon community, which is something I genuinely care about. I actually ran a similar experiment last year on a much smaller scale with 12 fellas I already knew. Almost all of them enjoyed learning the game so much that they stuck around even after that regionals. And I won't be surprised at all if the same thing happens again with this much larger cohort. Oh, and of course, the most important aspect. This whole thing is way funnier if it's a bunch of brand new players taking over the event. With a horde of fellas eager to jump into the game at my fingertips, all I needed now was a deck to arm them with. It'd need to be affordable, easy to learn, and still enough of a meme to actually ruin a tournament. One of my first considerations was Mega Abomasnow, a deck that's comprised of more than 50% water energy and has only one single goal: hit massive numbers with Hammerlanche. But not only does this ridiculously linear strategy become extremely unfun to play with for more than a couple games, let alone an entire day, it also relies on 4 copies of an EX Pokemon. Even if they're only $2 a pop, I just don't think I'll be able to source that many of them. My next candidate was a certified Tim Danklin classic, everyone's favorite crab, Crustle. Unlike Mega Abomasnow, this deck was a legitimate threat. Its strategy is entirely focused on walling out your opponent by building up a single massive crab that is completely immune to EX Pokemon, and then continuously healing it up with jumbo ice creams, keeping it alive throughout the rest of the game. Even though at the time, all the most successful lists were including Mega Kangaskhan EX, I could absolutely construct a build that functions without the need for any EX Pokemon, making it pretty reasonable to mass produce. But there was actually a different problematic piece of paper. See, in a 60-card Pokemon deck, you get to run one single A-Spec. A powerful card, often vital to a deck's core strategy, capable of completely flipping a game when played. In the case of everyone's favorite crab, it simply has to be Hero's Cape. And unfortunately for my dreams of a crustacean army, even though we only needed one copy of the card per deck, it's not only extremely hard to source in bulk, but even if I did manage to find a stash of them somewhere, not enough of you fellas are subscribed for me to be able to afford all those shiny capes. So, you know, maybe go and change that. There were a few other potential options, but everything seemed to have some major issue holding it back. It was really starting to feel like I just have to accept an imperfection and go along with one of these choices. But then, while watching the Fukuoka Champions League, my prayers were finally answered. In top 8, there was something beautiful. A successful, streamlined single prize strategy, Team Rocket's Honchkrow. This deck was perfect, yet in spite of its impressive result, everyone immediately wrote it off as nothing more than a Japanese anomaly, further cementing its meme deck status. There's no EX Pokemon required, it's really easy to learn, low-key incredibly fun to play, and the best best part, it relies on an A-spec that literally no other deck cares about, making it so much easier to find in bulk. On top of this, Honchkrow actually boasts a surprisingly unique matchup spread. While it does generally have a bit of a rough time into the best deck in format, it makes up for this with a relevant number of auto wins, such as Alakazam, Crustle, and Lopunny, which is exactly what I'm looking for when I want a brand new player to ruin someone's day. Plus, I just love the thematic vibe of Team Rocket taking over a tournament. Some of the fellas got really into it. But what is Honchkrow actually trying to do as a strategy? The archetype's primary strength is its ability to hit absolutely absurd numbers by discarding Team Rocket's supporters with Honchkrow's Rocket's Feathers attack, all while simultaneously maintaining a board that has no need for any multi-prize Pokemon. This is supported by the deck's late-game finisher, Porygon 2, another powerful one-prize attacker that scales its damage based on the number of Team Rocket supporters already in your discard, perfectly complementing Honchkrow as the deck's ideal endgame attacker. The only other Pokemon we're working with is Team Rocket's Articuno. It's exclusively here for its Repelling Veil ability, preventing the effects of attacks done to any of our basic Team Rocket's Pokemon. Primarily, this is here to assist in the Dragapult matchup, but also provides a cheeky auto win against Alakazam. Yeah, this one ability completely blocks their attack. Obviously, we've got a maxed out count of 20 total Team Rocket supporters, offering a nice range of utilities, such as Ariana for draw, Archer for hand disruption, Proton for Pokemon search, Petrel for trainer search, as well as Giovanni for a combination of gusting and switching. Team Rocket's Transceiver allows us to pick and choose from any of these supporters, while Roto Stick can potentially fetch up to 4 at once, if you're lucky.
Let's go gambling!
Team Rocket's Factory is a no-brainer, essentially allowing us to draw a couple more cards every single turn. Pokepad, Ultra Ball, and Night Stretcher are all mandatory for grabbing Pokemon from both the deck and discard, really helping to boost our overall consistency. Each of Team Rocket's Energy and Ignition Energy enable our attacks for only a single attachment. And of course, Miracle Headset is here as our beautiful A-spec that currently sees no love from any other archetype. But it's right at home here, capable of giving Honchkrow a much needed 120 damage boost, or just recycling a key supporter when you're in a pinch. So now that the deck's locked in, I've recruited my army and still have a bit over 2 whole months until the actual tournament, it was time to start the grind. I set up a private section within my own community Discord where I could run training sessions with all the dedicated Honchkrow enthusiasts, work through any questions they may have, and help to collectively refine and finalize that 60 card list. These fellas were getting access to tons of insightful tips, invaluable coaching, and proper world-class training. The kind of stuff you normally only be able to get over on my Metafy. I was even able to source enough code cards so that everyone could build the deck on PTCG Live and get grinding online. In fact, here's some leftovers for you now as a treat. Everything was going great. Most people were enjoying the game, rapidly improving, and Honchkrow was honestly quite impressive as a deck, with many of the recruits managing to reach Arceus rank during their first season of climbing. We were all incredibly excited to make history, but there was one major roadblock approaching. On March 25th, I had to get everyone to actually sign up for the tournament. Now, this wasn't a challenge for lack of desire to participate. No, the fellas were all absolutely loving the online grind so far. And the 50 AUD paywall isn't much of a hurdle either when you consider that the participation playmat and promo alone already more than cover that initial entry fee, as well as giving you the chance to place well and earn some serious cash. Taking home a grand for top 32 is nothing to sneeze at. So yeah, everyone seemed pretty keen on the event. In fact, that was kind of the root cause of the issue. You see, post-COVID, Pokemon events have been growing so much that despite TPCI constantly increasing venue sizes and player caps, they are simply never able to meet the massive demand of all the eager competitors. This particular regionals was not only by far the biggest Pokemon TCG event ever held in Australia, it was also simultaneously the fastest to ever sell out. The fact that both both of these records were shattered at the same time is absolutely insane. I tried to warn everyone, but I don't think they truly understood just how serious this stuff gets. Almost 1,200 TCG competitors registered, selling out tickets in just 8 minutes. And if you think that's absurd, it's got nothing on European or American events, which can regularly cap out 4,000 player tournaments in less than a minute. This mass desire to hashtag play Pokemon absolutely culled my army's numbers. But it wasn't enough to impede my most dedicated soldiers from securing their opportunity to compete. With 55 fellas remaining, it was time to begin the final stage of their training regime, real-life tournament preparation. All the previous practice may have given the group a great understanding of the game on paper, but when it comes to actually playing with paper, that's a different story. Many of them have never even shuffled a physical deck of cards before in their life. And if we were going to play in person, I'd need to provide these decks. That means 220 copies of each of these Team Rocket's cards in order to fully weaponize my murder of Honchkrows. Yeah, the collective noun for a group of crows is a murder. How sick is that? There's your fun fact for the day. Here is a lovely montage of me sleeving up a few of these decks in some beautiful crimson and silver dual mats. Now, just imagine this looping another 13 or so times and you'll start to begin to understand just a fraction of my pain. Luckily, Dragon Shield was generous enough to provide all the sleeves we needed, ensuring that everyone would be perfectly protected as we went into battle. If you want to grab a few boxes of the best sleeves available for yourself, make sure to use code DANKLIN05 for 5% off everything you order. But you're probably wondering where all these cards came from. I love a bit of Destined Rivals, but it's not like I cracked 30 boxes of the set and have a seemingly infinite inventory of thoroughly curated playables. But I know a store that does. Shout out to the goats over at Trolloz for donating just about every card we needed. Genuinely, this video straight up would not have been possible without their help. They didn't stop there though, allowing me access to the entire play space so I could teach an extra special Honchkrow masterclass. In this lecture, I broke down every card in the list, challenged my students with crucial sequencing puzzles.
You're kind of on the right track with thinning out your deck. So if you thin out with Transceiver, you're thinning out supporters, and that's the problem, because you want as many supporters in your deck as possible. So you actually play the Roto Stick first, since that's when you'll have the most supporters in deck, and you're more likely to hit one off that, because you only need to hit one in this situation. So if you can hit one off that, you can Transceiver, because Transceiver is guaranteed, whereas Roto Stick is, you're not sure how many you're going to pull.
And of course, made sure to discuss primary game plans and matchup specifics. Gotta make sure we are properly abusing those Alakazam players.
Put 2 damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon for each card in your hand. There's no number there. They can't deal any damage. So if you have Articuno in play, all of your basic Pokemon are safe. This does not count your Honchkrows, it doesn't count your Porygons. So one of the main strategies into this deck is to bench your Articuno. They can't deal any real damage. Maybe they have to like slowly chip away or evolve something else. And you can just use Torment until you have the prize advantage. Maybe you go up like 5 prizes to 6 prizes. You're both 1 prize decks and they have no hand disruption. So from there, you can just trade 1 for 1 until you win the game.
If you want to see the full behind the scenes of this Honchkrow masterclass, it's been available on my Patreon at Metafy and for YouTube channel members since mid-April. And there's plenty more bonus content too, with a new exclusive video dropping every single month. After the lecture, we got into some practice games, and despite having a really solid fundamental understanding, I quickly realized just how different it was from to be playing in paper as opposed to TCG Live or answering theoretical questions. There's no computer to shuffle for you, no glowing cards to tell you what's playable, and man, if I had $1 for every time someone forgot to put their prize cards out, let's just say I wouldn't need to win another regionals. So I decided it was probably best for everyone to stick around for Trolloz's weekly Wednesday night locals and get a taste of their first proper tournament experience, where thanks to all the additional troops, we actually helped break the record for their largest locals ever. To celebrate, the big boss himself even decided to give away a free box of Perfect Order, all for the love of the game and its incredible community. Now, when it comes to the actual tournament, as you'd probably expect when the majority of the room is on Honchkrow, there is going to be a lot of Honchkrow mirrors. An excellent test of who who can survive the most archers without completely bricking. This ridiculous meta percentage also fostered a legitimate hellscape for anyone brave enough to bring Crustle to battle, as they were caught in the crossfire and exclusively faced with unplayable matchups. This was the perfect rehearsal for regionals, and seeing the chaos caused by a complete meme deck overtaking the meta had me incredibly excited for what was to come at Melbourne. However, there was one player who was about to change everything. See, I just called Honchkrow a meme deck, and that was the general consensus. Sure, it could run hot, hit huge numbers, and maybe catch someone off guard, but at the end of the day, no one really believed in it, with the exception of one person. Fellow YouTuber and incredible player, ZapdosTCG. At this point, we're about a month out from regionals, and Prague is hosting the first official tournament featuring the latest set, the same format that will be legal for Melbourne. Now, ZapdosTCG thought it would be a great idea to pick up the deck and make a bit of cash by taking it on a run all the way to top 32. While this is a great accomplishment, and part of me definitely loves to see the Crows succeed, if this deck miraculously spikes a tournament before Melbourne and becomes popular, it could ruin all these months of planning and preparation. Suddenly, it's no longer funny that there's 50 Honchkrows spawning in out of nowhere. That's just the expectation. And there'll definitely be no more free wins. Everyone is going to be well versed in the matchup and possibly even teching for it. But luckily for my army's element of surprise, this top 32 achievement came without a single game on stream. There was no footage to demonstrate the deck's potential, and yet again, everyone seemed to write it off as another fluke run from a bad deck drawing hot. Throughout the following weeks, my beloved bird continued to fly under the radar, with only 3 underwhelming day 2 finishes at the following regionals over in LA. Solid results, but definitely not anything capable of completely flipping the meta upside down. So with that, we safely reached the weekend before the big day. Everyone's lists were locked in, spirits were high, and we were ready to put all that training to the test. There was just a couple regionals this weekend: Utrecht in the Netherlands and Campinas in Brazil. But if they played out anything like LA the week prior, it was extremely unlikely that there'd be much of a shift in the meta.
And let's head down to the floor where the players are already getting set up. They've had a look at each other's deck lists, and now they're ready to get into the thick of it.
What? Yep, ZapdosTCG ran it back with the exact same 60, and rather than stopping at a modest top 32, he took Honchkrow not just into top cut, but all the way to a $5,000 top 4 finish, properly solidifying the Crow's status as a legitimate meta threat. This gave everyone a serious wake-up call regarding the deck's viability. Alright, up until now, I've made the deck seeing success out to be a bad thing. And to be fair, it really isn't ideal, completely going against my original plan of a surprise attack. However, it could also be viewed as a blessing in disguise. As a result of this top 4 finish, we've been gifted a truly proven 60 to reference, multiple stream VODs to learn from, and a huge boost to morale when it comes to the likelihood of someone succeeding. Plus, at the end of the day, I really don't think that many people are going to make a last-minute pivot to the deck, and even if they do, that just means even more Honchkrows to adopt into our ever-growing army. So, given the deck's newfound spotlight, I decided to adapt my approach from somewhat of a stealth mission to straight up promoting Honchkrow's inevitable dominations.
You thought Dragapult's meta share was bad? I've trained up an army of 473 Honchkrow players.
Wouldn't you know it, these posts gained a little bit too much traction. Some people absolutely loved the idea, joining in to help push the propaganda, while others were legitimately terrified upon realization that their favorite deck was now completely unplayable. Oh, and of course, Reddit users being Reddit users absolutely freaked out about the whole thing. Once I rocked up to the venue on Friday afternoon, the hype was at an all-time high. Just about everyone I bumped into was wondering if the takeover was real, but they'd have to wait one more day to truly find out. I also made a point to meet up with all the wonderful fellas who volunteered their time to actually make this stream possible, and ended up sleeving every last one of my Honchkrow cards for a couple last-minute additions who weren't able to make it to any of the Troll Oz sessions. Despite the many difficulties, disruptions, and detours leading up to this moment, everything was finally sorted and we were ready to set the plan into motion. However, there was actually one last unexpected cherry on top that I did not plan for. At 5:49 p.m. the night before the tournament, I received this message. Wow, Tim, your new Itchy Pollen merch is so fire. I can't wait to pick some up from timdanklin.com. Wait, sorry, my bad, wrong message. This is what I'm talking about. That's right, the player with the most regional wins of all time, Azul GG, is joining the fight. I simply could not say no to this golden opportunity. So I donated all my Honchkrow cards, looked in a completely different deck for myself, and passed on the captain's hat to Honchkrow's strongest soldier. Now it was time for the main event. 959 players in the Masters Division and 54 of them were on Honchkrow, making it the 4th most played deck in the room despite previously having never even come close to cracking the top 10. It seems that all my Honchkrow propaganda may have spread a little bit further than just those who I initially recruited.
You're never going to guess what I hit round one. It was Honchkrow. He was making a lot of jokes when we paired, and then he flipped over his card and I understood all of them. He wasn't even part of the army, which is like the funniest part. He was just like a guy who wanted to play Honchkrow and happened to hit me. So hopefully 7 more Honchkrows. I got the dub.
And some of my soldiers were getting massive wins.
Hi, it's my first tournament. I beat Henry Brand.
Although, for most, the environment of playing in a major tournament was quite a bit different to anything they'd experienced before. A particularly common occurrence was the discovery that there are, in fact, judge penalties if you make a mistake. Whether it's a classic item under Itchy Pollen,
I misplayed and I used a Pokepad while I was item locked, and then the judge had to give me a 2 prize penalty. That's we'll see how my second match goes now.
Or getting completely griefed by your alarm.
Hi, this is my first regionals, Pokemon regionals, just here for fun. I actually stepped into all my alarms, so I took a late penalty, but I did win my first round against Sami.
And for anyone who's played the standard format lately, you'll be able to sympathize with the universal experience of fully bricking against a Dragapult and not even getting to play the game. How fun is Pokemon?
It's my first regionals, and I paired Dragapult and completely bricked round 1.
But after a couple rounds, there was someone who was seeing success against this field of Dragapults.
Repping the team Honchkrow, had a good day so far. Wasn't expecting to do too well against the Dragapult meta at the moment, but came up against one in round 1, beat it 2-1, came up against one in round 2, beat it 2-0 with a 2 prize penalty. So can't complain, I guess. Rocking for life.
And of course, as to be expected, there were also a ton of Honchkrow mirrors.
All right, I just finished my round 2 of regionals. I went up into a mirror match. Game 1, I bricked. He won turn 2. And then game 2, he bricked, and I won turn 2. And then we just, so he went first on game 3, so he was already ahead of me, and we played out the whole way. It was just a race to the last prize. I was on 1 prize left, he was on one prize left, and then he Porygoned me at the end. So round 2's down, but hopes up for the Honchkrow gang.
I genuinely loved watching everyone experience playing in their first regional championships. And for the most part, they all enjoyed their time. It was especially rewarding seeing the legitimate excitement and enthusiasm when someone would come over after bringing home a dub.
I actually won one, so that was cool. It was against the Raging Bolt deck. The first round was a wash because the Wellspring Ogrepon destroyed me. The second round went better because I knocked out the Manga Kangaskhan right away. And then the third one, my opponent had a really slow start, so I managed to take a lead. So yeah, I didn't misplay, so a judge wasn't called this time, so that was great.
Fellas, I've made a dub. I got a legit dub, not 3 buys or anti. I got 1 dub. I've f***ing done it. GG's. Check it out.
Now look, you can't really expect anyone to win their first regional, so it's not like the top tables were dominated by Honchkrow or anything, but the mass numbers did lead to some really funny moments, and anecdotally, just about everyone I talked to throughout day 1 was faced with at least 1 or 2 Honchkrows in their path. So, as the dust settled and the day closed out, the number of crows remaining in the tournament predictably began to dwindle, with only 9 progressing onto the next phase of competition. Although, Though there was one who stood above the rest. Finishing the first day as one of the top seeds of the tournament with a ridiculous 7-1 record was none other than Honchkro's strongest soldier, Azul GG. Going into day 2, he was immediately put straight on stream, where we all watched with eager eyes in anticipation as he drew terribly and got completely cooked. Quite an unfortunate end to what could have been an incredibly sick run, but hey, top 32 and $1,000 cash is nothing to complain about. And I'm gonna be honest with you, for this experiment, my primary metric of success wasn't based on a Honchkro player winning the whole thing, or how terrible I could make the tournament experience for everyone else. No, it was based on how much everyone who participated and joined the Honchkro army enjoyed themselves at their first regional championships. So, I've got to say, this was an absolute triumph. Seeing so many of these familiar faces pop up again at locals in the months after Melbourne has genuinely meant the world to me. Maybe this didn't end up being the ultimate takeover that I'd initially strived for. We didn't quite fulfill my ridiculous dream of representing more than half the room, but we sure did make a solid dent in the meta. The memes were impeccable, and all around, everyone had a great time. And anyway, what can you expect from the trial run? That's right, we're just getting started. You fellas aren't ready for the real tournament takeover to happen. You'll just have to stick around and wait to find out.